Hey there neighbors, Kevin here with etrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Hellwig adjustable rear anti-sway bar here on our 2023 Jeep Gladiator. If you're looking to upgrade from your factory rear anti-sway bar to one that's going to help you hit those faster speeds, make you a lot more stable as you're cornering, making all those turns, or if you're wanting a little bit more stability with your ride when you're out rock crawling, then swapping over with the Hellwig adjustable sway bar is going to be a game changer for you. So this sway bar is a 4140 chromoly steel, so this is going to be a solid sway bar. Sometimes with those factory ones, they are going to be hollow on the inside, so it's really not as good when it comes to performance. So swapping over, even though the factory one is 3/4 of an inch, and this is only swapping up to 7/8 of an inch, adding in that extra 1/8 of an inch is going to be about a 20% increase in performance when it comes to our stability here. So even though it doesn't really seem like much, there is a major difference here in terms of quality and that performance, especially with this one having the 3 slots in it, so that way you can actually adjust your stiffness with it, so you can really kind of fine tune to whatever your particular driving style is. So when it comes to the installation, this should be pretty simple. You are going to be swapping out and saving some of that factory hardware and then using a little bit of what they provide with the sway bar. But overall, as long as your setup is pretty clean and not really corroded, it should be a fast and simple switchover. Now, if you take a look at yours and you find your end links are really corroded up, it might be a good idea to just purchase some new ones, get those shipped to you, and then do that at the same time with your install on here, because this is going to require a hex key essentially to pop into the bolt for the lower bolt on that end link, and then you'll have a wrench that you'll need to take that nut off with. So a lot of time that is the pressure point where it starts to become a little bit more of an install, just because that really gets corroded up, and then it's hard to kind of get that nut off without the bolt end kind of stripping out on you. So if you feel like you don't want to deal with that hassle, or maybe you looked at yours and you saw it was really corroded up and you definitely didn't want to have to spend all your time trying to break that free and get the new one on there, then feel free to use our dealer locator. You can enter in your zip code to find a shop near you and get it professionally installed. Now, if yours does look pretty clean and you want to tackle it yourself, stick around and I'll walk you through the process. Starting off our install, I have already lowered and removed our spare tire. You honestly don't have to, but if you just want a little bit more working room, it makes it a little bit easier for you. But from that point on, we are going to be removing our old factory sway bar. So we're going to need to disconnect our factory sway bar end links, and we're going to be saving these because we're going to be reusing those with the new one here. So to start this off, we can use a 10mm socket. We're going to be popping out the bolt that's up here. So this has a little bracket that houses, it looks like the brake lines here. So we'll pop that off. That's going to just kind of sit to the side until we get our new bracket in place. And then for the other 2 bolts, we're going to need an 18mm socket. And down here, we'll actually use a wrench for it, just because we're going to put that in here to get on the nut. And then on the inside of this bolt right here, you're going to need a 6mm hex bit, and that's going to slot right into the center, and that'll hold that bolt still, because if you just want to try and take that nut off right there, it'll just keep spinning the bolt too. So make sure that we got this on the right way. We'll start with this one, just get the end link disconnected from our sway bar. At this point, we're getting real loose. I can probably just do it by hand. Set that aside, move our way up. I'm going to switch back over to a wrench for this one, or a socket. There we go. We'll pop this out, we'll set this aside. And then that last bracket right up here, like I said, because we're going to be adding in a different bracket here as well. So we'll have these flat plates right here. The bolt is going to go in this top hole, and then that little tab that bites in right here with our bracket is going to go into this hole. Down here is where that last bolt's going to be. At this point, we can now install our reinforcement plate. Now, this is only going to go on one specific way, so you may put it up there, find you have it backwards, and then you just need to flip it back around. So you can kind of see it bevels out a little bit more. We're going to have that side facing towards the front of the vehicle, and the bevel in we'll have facing towards the back. That's kind of the best way I can phrase this, at least, to make it a little bit more easy to determine which way you need to have it going. But honestly, if you look at it, like I'm looking at it from the back side of our bracket here, and I can see through the holes on both, so I know I'm actually lining up. So at this point, we'll put in our top screw for our bracket for our brake lines here, and that's kind of the one that's going to fight you the most, so getting that one in first, make it a little bit easier. Make sure that you have the tab from that bracket popping into that middle hole, and then we'll take a 10mm socket and we'll snug that down. Don't go all the way snug yet though, just because we want to get that other bolt in here too. So with our end link, we're going to be putting this back on exactly the same way we took it off. Make sure that you have that lower bolt facing towards the wheel. We'll take our top bolt, we'll get that lined up here, and then we can finish snugging down on that 10mm up there with everything in line. Now with our 18mm socket, we're going to snug this bolt down too. We don't need to go crazy tight just yet because we do need to kind of figure out exactly which hole we want to have our end link go into with our sway bar, and then also we want to make sure that we have that angled just perfectly. So a little bit, enough that you can still kind of move it. So like right there's too snug for me to move that, so I'm going to slide it back just a bit more until we get everything how we need it. But at this point now we're just going to do the exact same thing we did on this side over on our driver's side. Now for our D-shaped mounts, we're going to have 2 bolts, and those are going to require a 15mm socket. We'll get those taken off. Those are just tied into a weld nut on the inside here, so we don't have to use a second wrench to hold it in. On the back side here, we just need that 15 up front. And I've already got the driver's side down, so at this point we'll just drop the whole sway bar. Super light just because the factory one is pretty small, and we can just set this aside. Now we can take our D-shaped bushings here, and we're going to put a little bit of our lubricant in each one of them. I'm going to squirt about half the tube in. And then once we have that kind of moved around on the inside, we're going to actually place these on our sway bar. And it's going to be kind of right in the middle when you're looking at the ends right here, where it kind of evens back out just before the curve. So I'll spread this around real quick. And then there's going to be a split in the bushing, so you just need to look for that split. Get your fingers in there. And then you can pop it on, and you'll want that kind of in the middle there. So I'm going to try and clean off that lubricant that kind of spread. And we'll just do the same thing on the other side. All right, now we'll bring this over. We want this facing so that it's kind of pulling up in the center with the rear differential. So it'll sit somewhat like that. We want to try and keep the arms as level as possible, so perpendicular with the frame. And then we're going to match that up. So at the same time, we're also trying to have the end link come straight down. As you swap between the 3 different settings there on the sway bar, that might kind of just be a little bit off. That's totally fine, but for the most part, the most level that we can make it with our sway bar, and then perpendicular with our end link. It's going to give us the best performance. So in your kit, you're going to find these bolts that have a hex head on them, and then you're going to find some D-shaped flat washers. We're going to be using these along with the included blue Loctite. For the actual hex key, you're going to need an 8mm. And we're going to run some blue Loctite down these threads. And this is what's going to go into our D-shaped bracket here that actually bolts us up to the axle. So I'm going to get that hand started. We don't want to go too snug just yet because we are going to need to center our sway bar between the two brackets. So what I like to do personally is just take my tape measure from the outer edge of our sway bar into the bushing, and then I'll just make sure that I have the same measurement on both sides to keep it centered. But with that said, I'm going to get these 2 bolts in, and then we're going to just repeat this over on our driver's side. All right, so measuring from the end of our sway bar to the edge of our bushing here, looks like I'm right around 3 3/8. On this side, we are a hair off of 3 3/8, so I can just barely kind of move it over. And maybe there. I went a hair too far. We're about 1/16 off, so let's slide it back just a bit. Quarter. A little bit more. Right there's good. So at this point, we will now decide what setting we want to go into. So there's going to be 3 holes on the end of our sway bar. The furthest out is going to be the softest, so that's going to be kind of your standard ride quality. As you go into the middle one, that's going to be more of a upgrade, essentially. It's going to be a little bit stiffer, and then further in you go, the stiffer it's going to get. So I honestly, and Hellwig typically is going to recommend starting out with that furthest out hole, so that way you're just kind of at that standard quality, and then see if you actually like how it feels. You don't want it to be too stiff to where now the ride quality is uncomfortable. But with ours today, our neighbor wants it to be right in the middle. He's going to try that out, see how he likes it, because he does take this out off-roading quite a bit. So I'm going to get my other end link out of the way. I'm going to pop that up. It's going to take a little bit of finagling here just to get everything properly in place. There we go. And then at this point, we can now throw on our hardware. I'm going to go ahead and just throw on some blue Loctite too onto this bolt as well. Wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of extra protection, and with them including a whole tube of it, makes it really easy. I'm going to just thread on the nut, and then once again, remember, you got to use the 6mm hex key, and then also an 18mm ratcheting or just standard wrench. At this point, we can now torque down all of our hardware. I've already got the passenger side done. We're going to torque down our axle bolts, then we'll come up here, get our end link bolts, this one and the top one. The very top bolt that is holding on that brake line bracket is not something you'd have to torque. You really just need to snug it down tight. But with that said, I'm going to get this side done. Now with this lower one, you probably will need a either 18mm or an 11/16 crow's foot. That's the word I'm looking for. And then we are going to have to get that on there, and we'll still have to use our 6mm hex key. We'll put that in there. I don't have a lot of room on this side with the tire, so I'm using a 1/4" wrench to just hold on to the bit itself while we torque this down. And once you get that one done, you can swap back to just a normal socket for the top one. So the last thing we're going to do here is just put on our collars, and these are going to butt up against the inside of our bushing. So if you loosen one screw till it's almost out and then take the other one completely out, it'll make it easy to slot it right on. And then they give you a little Allen key to tighten these down. Just make sure that as you're tightening them down, you're doing them evenly. That way we get even pressure with the collar. This one's fighting me to go back in. There we go. So I just like to go back and forth as I tighten it, keep it even. Looks like I could use a little bit more on the bottom here. So now that we have all of our hardware torqued down, that's going to do it for the install portion of this. The next step that you'd have to do is actually go out, test drive, maybe do a little 20-minute drive, come back in, and then just recheck your torque on all of your hardware, make sure nothing shifted. You can also check the center of your bar, see if it kind of shifted one way or the other. It really shouldn't, just because we installed those collars to kind of help prevent any shifting here. But in the case where it actually does, that's where you really want to make sure you come back, double check that. And then afterwards, the only maintenance that you really would have to do on this is, once again, just checking that torque occasionally, maybe at least once a season, if not more often than that, especially if you're a really heavy driver and you're hitting a lot of rough terrain. Well, that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Hellwig adjustable rear anti-sway bar here on our 2023 Jeep Gladiator. My name's Kevin, and if you still have some questions about what's going to be the right anti-sway bar for your vehicle, please feel free to reach out to us via our Ask the Experts link, a comment on this video, or a phone call to our customer service department. We'd be happy to help you out on your journey.